The Super Bowl champions, once again, your Kansas City Chiefs.
How about that? I am amazed at my power of picking against a team. Whenever I pick against them, they're almost assured to win, right?
You start picking against Buffalo every week next year for me?
I need to do that, yeah.
Well, the final score, as you guys saw, 25-22, overtime thriller, the exact same play, back-to-back Super Bowls. You bring the receiver out of the slot
Corn
in
dog,
motion.
right?
You fake the handoff, you roll to the right, you have your receiver going into the flat. Unbelievable. Last year was Kadarius Toney. This year, that wasn't Scantling, it was Mecole Hardman.
Yeah. And
awesome.
Hardman wasn't even on the team to start the year. He was a New York Jet.
And he's a former Chief, drafted by the Chiefs in 2019. And so for him to come back and have that moment, but Mahomes won the MVP.
Yeah, and he should have.
Yep.
I mean, unlike, we talked about it last week when they beat the 49ers 4 years ago, Mahomes was the MVP, but he shouldn't have been. It was Adrian Williams or somebody like that, the running back.
Oh, Damian Williams.
Damian Williams, who he deserved to be the MVP of that Super Bowl. Didn't get it, went to Mahomes. Patrick deserved it this time.
333 yards, passing 66 yards, rushing the two touchdowns, and none bigger than his 2 runs on that final drive. When his team needed him most, Patrick Mahomes did what Patrick Mahomes does, and he puts people on his back. But I'm worried about his back because he's had Andy Reid on his back now for 6 years, and there's going to be some problems coming from that.
Yeah, you know, and you wonder, I mean, I was watching that first half, and the Chiefs were very vanilla. They weren't doing anything special. It's like, Andy, what are you doing, right? And again, I think the team, I think Patrick and Kelsey and the rest of the guys kind of picked up Big Red on this one and made, I think the players are making Andy Reid a better coach. But on the other hand, they probably wouldn't be as great as they are without what he does too. So they really need each. It's just like Belichick wouldn't have been the greatest coach of all time if Tom Brady wasn't on that team, right? I mean, there's no doubt about it.
Sure, I think Andy Reid, you could take a step further, and on next week's Cup of Coffee, I'm going to tell you guys why, if it's not for Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid wouldn't crack the top 50 greatest NFL head coaches of all time without him. He might actually be the greatest choke artist in the history of NFL head coaching if it wasn't for Patrick Mahomes.
Wow.
Love the guy, super likable. I got to say, I love the way he handled the Travis Kelce thing.
Yeah.
None of us know what it's like in the heat of battle, right?
Yeah.
You're competing for a Super Bowl. There is a special relationship there where those players have that leash. Like 4 years ago with Wasp, the players calling the plays from the sideline. No one was mad about the players overruling the coaches and calling their own plays.
Right, yeah.
And so in that moment, Andy Reid, you saw, he was actually apologizing to Travis. There's something to learn from that spirit of, becoming more humble down there where you're not over top of everybody, and it's worked. So,
and I think that's the genius of Andy Reid. It's not he's such a great X's and O's coach or even a motivator coach. It's how he brings them all together and keeps them all together. That's the genius of Andy Reid.
Because, there's 50, over the last 3 or 4 years, I can think of 50 head coaches that on the spot bench that player and make it about you. I'm going to prove a point. I'm not getting humiliated on national TV. I'm the top dog.
Right.
I'm the head coach.
Yep.
You're going to listen to me. Andy Reid doesn't have that. And because of that, Travis Kelce, after being held to 1 yard, had 99 yards or 93 yards in the second half.
9 catches. Yeah, absolutely. He was huge. But that's the Kansas City Chiefs.
Right.
They've got the coach who's good enough to keep them all together and playing together, and the players who are great enough to make the coach look good. I mean, it's a special group.
That's true. All right, so real quick, I wanted to talk about, there were so many Super Bowl commercials, and I'm not even going to bore you guys with my take on the politics and the halftime show and all of the Taylor Swift stuff, but I did see a commercial I really liked from State Farm. Check it out.
Thank you, Agent State Farm.
Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Cut. Hey, Arnold, I'm hearing neighbor. It's neighbor.
That's what I said. Neighbor.
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 Hey, let's go again.
Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Cut.
Now what?
Neighbor.
Yeah, neighbor. Just like it's written on the paper. Neighbor! That was the sheep. And you know it. Neighbor.
Still no.
Neighbor.
Neighbor.
Bar.
Bar.
Bar! This lane is in labor.
Cut. Arnold, got a bit of a script change. You'll love this.
Thank you, Agent State Farm.
Like a good
neighbor, State Farm is there.
You are a backstabber.
I am a backstabber.
Like a good neighbor. Wasn't that great?
That was great. You know, and we don't get enough of that from Hollywood anymore. It's very creative. They did a great job on that.
And it resonates with so many generations because you have Arnold and you have Danny DeVito and you have the Twins movie from the late 80s, early 90s, and that's what we all thought of when we saw that. And maybe times were simpler back then, but what that did was it evoked great emotion for us, great memories, great period of time. It was funny and it was just relatable. I thought that was really well done. And you don't see enough of those during Super Bowl Sunday anymore.
By the way, that Super Bowl reports are now that it was the most watched program, television program in United States history.